Alrighty guys, we are currently working on the M4 for today. Already have it jacked up and everything. But yeah, this has been a long time awaiting. There's this very special mod that I'm going to be doing to the passenger headlight. And I gotta say, this has never been done before on the F8X chassis. And this is what I'm talking about. This is a carbon fiber headlight delete kit from Project Gamma. Now there's a lot of versions of this for various builds out there. A lot of the older Beamers especially have it. But this is the first time ever that they have introduced a version for the F8X chassis. There's actually some Chinese sellers on eBay that sell this kind of setup for the F30s, but this is the first ever time that we've seen it on the F80s. And this was recently just announced by Project Gamma, so if you guys want to check them out, there'll be a link in the description below. But essentially what this does is it removes and deletes pretty much the passenger headlight, therefore transforming it into more so just a carbon duct to suck air into the turbos. Now this is mainly designed for single turbo setups. Now clearly my car is stock motor, so it's kind of redundant. I mean, let alone my intake here is literally just the OEM plastic one, so it's not really going to do anything. But I wanted to go with the aesthetic mods first before I start upgrading anything performance wise. What we're going to be doing is busting out this headlight over here. Gonna remove all the connections, all the bolts. Already went ahead and removed the passenger side fender liner just in the front area only. It should be pretty simple, like plug and play. The only thing is all the electrical connections are not going to be plugged in anymore. So you might get a dash like warning saying that, oh, headlight malfunction. Just looking at the product itself, it is fully carbon fiber, so it's really lightweight, durable, but also a little bit thin. This is the first ever install that any YouTuber has done, so this might be the very first video out there. So let's just hope it fits, because I haven't seen this installed on any other car besides the shop car. But yeah, without further ado, I'm gonna release all the bolts in the clips over here to loosen up the bumper and the fender. I don't think you need to take the whole bumper off. I think you can just kind of loosen up this area and just work on it here. But worst case scenario, it is too tight. I might have to take it off. Okay, so it's been like 3 hours trying to get 2 bolts off in the rear of the taillight. Basically, there are 2 bolts on the back, which are pretty simple to remove, but that's if it's not stripped. So actually, this car, it's clean title, but technically it has been in an accident. Even that's why there's overspray on the headlight. Whoever worked on his car previously, when they rebuilt the front end, they did not put it back together properly. So a lot of the bolts in the back were seized and they were pretty much just stuck in there. So when I was drilling it out, it just kept spinning the nut in the front. And there's literally no clearance in here to reach for it to clamp it down. And I've been trying all sorts of clamps and bolts and like all sorts of things to pretty much hold the bolt stable on the other side. But there was just literally no way to really fit it in there because the clearances are so damn tight. But after some trial and error, I figured out exactly what I needed to do. And I don't know if this is conventional. I don't know if this is what people actually do. But I used my impact and I drilled it tighter until it started heating up red. And I literally saw smoke coming out. And that pretty much allowed the metal to expand and mend with each other. And from there, I just backed it out in one large and it popped out. So it worked on both sides, both bolts. Basically, I just drilled it tighter against itself until it started just literally stripping and flaming up. I don't recommend doing that because, you know, you don't want to cause a fire around these electrics. And I was literally about to get a Dremel and just start cutting the brackets off. But yeah, luckily I was able to get it out just by over torquing it until it started heating up and just backed it out. So yeah, we got those 2 back bolts out. All the top bolts are removed for the headlight. I did go ahead and remove the bumper just to get more clearance. But yeah, after we get rid of those bolts, you can just pull this headlight out and disconnect the electrics. I might actually go ahead and redo my V-brace because the vinyl here is coming up already and starting to rip. So I'm thinking about doing it a little bit more cleaner because look, it's just 2 strips of white here. I'm probably gonna just peel that off and do one, you know, face kind of wrap just to kind of fill it in a little better. But yeah, let's go back to the headlight. We're gonna take this headlight out and then we're gonna see if the brackets even line up on the new one. so I put the bumper back on and got it to work. I had to play around with all these bolts for a while just to kind of get the fitment right, and it's looking pretty solid. Looks pretty OEM with how all the edges line up. At first it was kind of sitting a little bit deep, but I was able to push it forward. All the bolts on this side line up, and even the bottom bolts on the back line up. The only one bracket that is a little bit warped is right over here towards the top. So see, these don't really line up, and that's kind of the only thing that's a little bit off. I did notice the bracket that's on the headlight piece here is actually bent. I don't know if that's supposed to be like that. It just seems like it got bent and twisted, maybe during shipment or maybe just during storage, because I did have it for a few weeks. It still holds pretty strong without it. I'm thinking just zip tying it for the time being or adding a spacer in there in the future. But yeah, everything on the bottom bolts up pretty well. I just reused the OEM hardware, and then this bracket on the top here, you know, fitted pretty well. So yeah, it's just these two bolts over here, the bottom two, and then that one bracket on the side, which doesn't really fit right. But other than that, I think it turned out pretty dang sick. Driver's side over here keeps falling down. I just have to bolt it up over here. Then I can put all the bolts back in on the top area, put in all the bolts on the bottom, and we should be good to go. On this side, I have to reconnect all the connections for the side cameras and sensors and whatnot. And then we have the main plug over here for the OEM headlight. This is a little bit of a short cable, so I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to tie it to. I'm probably going to put a piece of plastic over it, tape it down, and zip tie it. I'm going to have to find a nice spot for it, because now that there is going to be a major gaping hole over here, water is going to come in here on rainy days or during details. So I don't want any of these electronics getting wet, which is kind of dangerous. But yeah, I'm going to try to tie that to something. We have a little bit of stuff here that I might be able to tie it to. But yeah, definitely gotta waterproof that, and then we'll button everything up and we'll take a look at what it looks like when it's done. Adaptive system doesn't work. I don't really care, because I don't think it really makes that much of a difference. I just don't want that malfunction to affect this not working at all. Another thing is, if this is out, there's a chance on the right side passenger taillight, this might start having a hyper flash. So there is a possibility for that. I don't know for sure if there's a way to code it out, but haven't tested it just yet. I'm not really too worried about all the functionalities of this car, to be honest. Like, if my taillights don't work or whatever, like, it doesn't really bother me, just because my intention with this car is just to make it a show build, really. I do plan on getting another car in the future and doing a more purpose-built, you know, vehicle with that. So, you know, probably doing more performance on that, whereas this is more focused on the aesthetics. Alrighty, so we have buttoned everything up and we are completely done with the install. I gotta say, the fitment is pretty good. I had to really adjust it in order for it to work, but obviously ran into some difficulties with the brackets, but we got it to work. Everything is lined up. I did have to do a little bit of adjustment to this area because the hood started sitting a little bit uneven. I think I gotta adjust this side a little bit because the gap here is a little bit big. Here is a little bit more narrow, and it gets really narrow in the middle, so I just have to loosen up the bolts in the front, pull this back a little bit, or kind of push this a little bit in, kind of pull that a little bit out. But yeah, that's pretty easy, you know, adjustment to be made. But other than that, everything is pretty much good to go on the car for the event. Only thing I was missing is the side skirts, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do that on time, so I'm gonna leave the side skirts off for now. It kind of blends in. You can't really notice it during the day, but at night you can clearly notice that one headlight is out. I do have a warning on the dash, you know, adaptive headlight malfunction, to be expected. And if I do a right turn signal, the back still works, but it just hyper flashes. So I don't know if I need to do a relay setup or just leave it as is. And that's pretty common, because if you're missing the front and then the back gets too much, you know, voltage or whatever, and it starts to hyper flash. But other than that, the car is looking pretty decent. Gonna detail it in the next few days, and then probably shoot some rollers again with the new setup and some cinematics. But if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe.